This is The Great Outdoors with Jason White, exploring the great outdoors in Pennsylvania and beyond. Brought to you by the Mariana Outdoorsmen Association and by Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds. Now, The Great Outdoors with Jason White.
Hello, friends. I'm Jason White. Welcome to The Great Outdoors. I want to start off the show with thanking our sponsors. First of all, the Mariana Outdoorsman Association. You can join the MOA today at marianaoutdoors.com. Again, you can join today. 30% discount throughout summer at marianaoutdoors.com. Excuse me. Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds. If you're looking to do an upland bird hunt, if you're looking to do turkey hunt, deer hunt, etc., all managed by 10 Mile Creek Outfitters. You can check us out at 10mileco.org. Again, 10mileco.org, or give us a call at 724-579-0924. Washington County Tourism Promotion Agency. Please visit Washington County, Pennsylvania today. And then business sponsors: U.S. Oil and Gas Alliance, ZLC Services, John Koski Contracting, Laurel Hill Trout Farm, and Octane Environmental. Special thanks to all of our sponsors and your continued support of conservation and the great outdoors. Looking ahead, I just want to kind of go over some upcoming events for the Mariana Outdoorsman Association. We've been very busy this summer with projects, and I've talked about some of the different things we're working on in past episodes. We're restoring a Civil War era barn currently, lots of mortar work taking place, woodwork taking place, barn floor, barn walls, roof, you name it. Lots of just miscellaneous repairs, but really excited about it. Going to have the event venue available starting this fall, and I already know some folks that are already booking weddings and different events. So I'm really personally excited about it, just to see something so nice, getting a facelift. But that being said, looking ahead, Saturday, September 7th, upland bird hunting will open back up at the Mariana Outdoorsman Association. That same day, we're going to have our annual dove hunt. That'll start right at legal hunting time in the morning, and then the folks that participate will be able to hunt throughout the duration of the day. Information on this is on the Mariana Outdoorsman Association's Facebook page, and if you go under the details, you can give me a call personally at 724-579-0924. State and federal hunting laws apply. That same day, Saturday, September the 7th at 10 o'clock until 12 o'clock noon, there will be an open house and tour. So if you're interested in becoming a member, please kind of mark that date on your calendar. Love to have you. We will meet at Wild Acres Farm, 1997 Morey Road, Clarksville, Pennsylvania, 15322. Saturday, October 5th at 9 o'clock, that is our first trout stalking of the fall. That is a tentative date, tentative time. Kind of going to just, it's kind of a marker right now. That might adjust or change. We shall see. But, please mark your calendars. We will be stalking trout in October, both in the 10 Mile and Daniels Run sections. Saturday, October 19th, it's our Fall Gun and Cash Bash. It's a collaboration with the U.S. Oil and Gas Alliance and the Mariana Outdoorsman Association. It will be held at 19 North, which is located at 19 North in Washington, Pennsylvania. It's about a half of a block from the county courthouse, catty corner to President's Pub. So I hope to see everybody. Information again on this, marianaoutdoors.com, and you can check us out at Facebook at Mariana Outdoorsman Association. And then just kind of looking way into the fall, Sunday, December 15th, we'll have our one-day fly fishing trout tournament for the Mariana Outdoorsman Association. Really excited about this, kind of just a one-day thing, but it will be a strictly fly fishing tournament. Information again, marianaoutdoors.com, or check us out on Facebook at Mariana Outdoorsman Association. That being said, I kind of wanted to talk today specifically about crop damage. Crop damage primarily with deer. I don't like to talk a lot about this because it gets talked about, I think, pretty extensively through different circles. But through my research and through experience, it just seems like it's not adequately and properly being addressed, and I think that that's a huge concern. When you go and do a simple internet search and just look at crop damage articles throughout the state of Pennsylvania. There are things as local as Fayette County, I know, with some pretty big crop growers that have endured some pretty hefty crop damages. That being said, I kind of want to go over what programs are out there for folks. I know that, some of you probably know what already is available. Some people do not, and that's okay. But I think it's just very important when you talk about, what you can utilize and what tools are out there. I'm not advocating or saying that they are adequate. I definitely think there needs to be, a lot of reforms throughout, the state when it comes to how we could better manage crop damages or the things we should or shouldn't do. But, that being said, I think that we're at a perilous time. I mean, we had a very poor summer condition when it came to, the drought. And this has been one of the worst summers that I've ever seen, not only with the drought, but then in turn with the crop damages. I know there's folks that have soybean fields that are literally almost down to the dirt. I know that the growing conditions were not helpful in any capacity, but that period of time, basically from like the middle of May to middle of July, was absolutely devastating because, that's right at the peak of when, the does have already had their fawns. The fawns are starting to go out into the fields. They're starting to graze. So now you're getting additional animals out kind of grazing around. And, they eat basically, I don't want to say anything, but a deer is a foraging animal, and they eat a lot. There's definitely a lot of great articles that I would recommend if anybody, wants to see the amount that a deer consumes. Actually, there's some videos on YouTube where some doctors and professors kind of display. It's like a tote, almost like a big. Don't quote me. Approximately like 20-gallon tote, and kind of just pulls out all these different leaves and just food that a deer would eat in a day, and it's pretty jaw-dropping and astounding to think that one deer could consume as much as they possibly can. That being said, if you're somebody that is a farmer and you do it full-time, clearly, the risk of crop damages by wildlife are crippling and groundbreaking to you in a negative way. But that being said, there's, I recently heard a statistic that approximately 9% of all farmers actually do it as a sole income. So most people in the proximity of 90 percentile do it as a side income source. And if that's the case, you're still taking on the risks, you're still taking on the financial losses or the debts or, the things that come with it. That being said, it's a risky situation in the capacities that, the deer don't care that you're doing a part-time or for that matter that you're doing a full-time. It comes down to they're going to eat, and they're going to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat to meet their needs, their daily dietary needs. And sadly, this is why you hear stories of people's hostas and their landscaping being eaten, and just different plants, trees being destroyed, shrubbery. The list goes on and on and on. Deer are opportunistic. They forage, they graze. That's why you'll hear a lot of people say that they're more of a, they're, how do I want to say this? They're an opportunistic animal. But with opportunity becomes severe and utter damage. And, I just saw some articles recently where there were some sunflower festivals planned throughout the state of Pennsylvania that are now being shut down. It's not that the drought was what devastated them. The drought certainly stunted them, a lot of crops. It's the wildlife damage because the plants did not have enough water. They did not have enough opportunity to regenerate and basically overcome the deer consumption. And because of that, the combination of drought and crop damage from wildlife is utterly devastating. Devastating to the point that we're now actually seeing huge implications of this, to where festivals are being shut down, businesses are financially seeing huge, I would say, financial hurdles because of this. And it raises a lot of questions about, are we adequately managing the deer? Are the programs working? Programs such as Red Tags in Pennsylvania, which is one program offered by the Game Commission. Programs such as DMAP, another program offered by the Game Commission. Crop Damage, another program offered by the Game Commission if you're somebody that is utilizing it as a primary income source. The hurdles that I see for people, especially whether you do the crop damage programs as your primary income source, so if you're a farmer and it's your sole job to farm, or if you're somebody that does it part-time, the thing about it is it's such a devastating proposition to have to to deal with it, because we all are working our jobs. Even like I said, if somebody's in agriculture and they're doing it as a side thing, side money, or a part-time thing, the concern that I see, and I brought this up at a recent meeting, is people are working their jobs, whether they're a farmer or not, doesn't really matter, as their primary income source. And the problem that people are running into is that the deer populations are so mismanaged currently that places, I have an acquaintance that actually hunts deer and is a paid hunter. And this is like a very, that's a deep rabbit hole to go down when it comes about the Game Commission. But anyways, this friend of mine actually shoots deer at a local farm here located in southwestern Pennsylvania. And this farm exists as a primary income source for the landowners. And they have to shoot literally high volumes of deer off of their farm and orchards to protect their orchards, to protect pumpkins, to protect the fruits and veggies that they're producing. That being said, they've had to go to those extremes to manage the wildlife, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to exist, to the point that they actually have to pay somebody to come out and do this. This is my concern when you think about this, is it's gotten to the point where the deer numbers have blown up. And I'm not saying, please do not take me wrong. I understand that there are hot spots throughout the state. I understand that there are some spots that are less than others, and I get it. That's going to happen. You're never going to have a uniform population over the entire state. That just is completely irrational, and it's never going to happen. Different habitats, different landscapes are going to offer different opportunities when it comes to deer populations. That being said, a lot of the thriving deer populations are in key and prime agricultural zones. So there's a lot of factors that are kind of overlaying when it comes to this whole discussion. But that being said, people are working their jobs 9 to 5, 8 to 4, maybe 8 to 6. Doesn't really matter. Come home, got to have a little family time. And basically these programs then force your hand, that you as the individual have to then go out and basically take on the task of not only maintaining the farm, again, not whether it's full-time or part-time, but then you have to go out and basically hunt deer throughout the evenings and night. I see this as completely unrealistic, and just completely unjustifiable. The fact that, anybody with common sense can drive by a soybean field, and if you're into the middle of July and the soybeans are 2 inches tall, we have a major problem. If you go middle of July, even right now, we're pushing August, and corn is only chest high. Well, I can give you an example, and it's actually an interesting example, but we have corn that is in enclosed pens. And although the height is stunted, the ears still have formed, still growing effectively. The thing about it is the areas that are not enclosed, where deer could get to, basically are so devastated that they couldn't even get to an adequate height because, although the enclosed pen, we'll call it the test site of where the corn was planted, where crop damages were protected and the deer couldn't get to it. Yeah, the corn's probably 2 foot shorter than it normally would have been, just due to lack of rainfall, but still has ears, still filling out nice and effectively. Just stunted than the normal size it would have normally been. But out in the open fields, due to the drought and the deer activity, the deer just kept hitting, and there just was not enough time for those stalks to regenerate in a timely manner, and it just totally stunted the whole process to the point where I'm going to say the bulk of the corn will not have any ears whatsoever. That being said, I mean, this is I guess you could say in some capacities it might be a controversial subject. For me, it's not. I look at it as your right as a landowner. This has nothing to do even with agriculture, in my opinion. I feel that the Game Commission is meant and obligated to manage wildlife. And if you're seeing property damages by wildlife, then the Game Commission should help to facilitate to get that addressed. And the problem that I'm seeing and the problem that I'm hearing is that these programs do exist. And yes, they can be helpful, but they're very lengthy. Lots of certain windows and times that you can even apply. It's not like there's an open revolving door for you to get what you need. I firmly believe you should be able to go to the Game Commission, voice your concerns. Clearly, if they want to come out and inspect the property or properties to see whatever damages you're dealing with, I think that that's something that should be an open and transparent process. It should be something that, a landowner, I don't even care if you live in a housing development. Say you live in a community and all of your thousands of dollars of landscaping is totally destroyed. Well, clearly it's a combination of things. But ultimately there's too many deer in a confined space. And with that being said, you're never going to have anything nice because it's constantly going to be destroyed by wildlife. I mean, you look at communities, even like the city of Pittsburgh. It got so bad that the city had to do something about the deer in the parks. I mean, this stuff is not really rocket science. It's kind of common sense. The Game Commission claims that there should be roughly 6 deer per square mile, and I want to say that number currently is managed almost 4 times as much. So if you really think about that, that's a huge difference. So basically, we're saying that our operational environment is only able to hold 25% of what we're actually putting out there. But we're actually putting out 4 times the amount. That's astronomical if you really think about it. Don't quote me on the exact number, but that was from a recent meeting that I had, one-day conference with the Farm Bureau, and there were some statistics put out, and I was just kind of blown away about it. Looking at these programs, some suggestions that I think would benefit everyone. is all of these programs should be open 365, that, a landowner or leaseholder could reach out to the Game Commission and convey their concerns and identify a solution. Programs such as, I'll use DMAP. DMAP is the acronym for it. But a lot of these programs are only open certain windows. So DMAP, you have to basically apply in the springtime. If you were to apply like in August, you can't get it. I think DMAP's a good program with certain pieces of the puzzle. I think that being able to get extra tags during normal hunting season, I think a lot of hunters would find that to be more of an ethical opportunity. So I think DMAP in its own capacity has a lot of good roots to it, but the really narrow window that you must apply in the spring, you can't apply in the fall or even the winter. So say you wanted to apply even like, I don't know, just say you're a new property owner, you just bought a farm and you just planted in the spring and you're just figuring this all out, and you go to the Game Commission and say, hey, I'd like to apply for this program for the fall. Well, you can't because you missed the deadline. And then, you look at other things. Some of these programs require you must be in public access. That's something I think is just nonsense. I don't think that you should have to open your property to the public as a private property owner. That's a constitutional view. That's my view. I don't feel that I should be subjected to, for me to address a crop damage concern or wildlife damages, should then have to open up my property to the general public. As a taxpayer, if you have land and you have property damage, it raises the question, law-abiding citizen, so on and so forth. Why should you have to give up your rights of your property simply so you can protect your land, protect your crops, protect your income, your livelihood? For me, I think some of this stuff we've gotten too hung up on public access. Do I think public access is important? Yeah, I do. But that opens up a whole nother Pandora's box. We continue to buy and buy and buy, or be gifted land to the Game Commission, and it raises the question: are we properly managing game lands? Are we giving hunters proper access or proper opportunities that we should? I would question that and say I firmly believe we could do a much better job. I think that it's lackluster at best, and I think that it raises a lot of questions and opportunities, and certainly I'm interested in the future when it comes to that particular discussion. I want to talk about game land management, because I think that that is a black hole, and I'm fearful of I would say the defense that folks are going to have to not doing what needs to be done. And, we'll see. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Game Commission, I know the Game Commission right now is going to be rolling out some plans about some discussions about game lands, but from pretty good inside sources, it doesn't sound like they are very committed or firm, I would say, about any positive change. I think that a lot of these, I think a lot of the folks within the Game Commission see it as things are going effectively and fine. And I think that it, on its face value, is troubling at best, scary in many other, I would say, views that I would have on the discussion. And the reason I say that is I've been across the state talking to people within the Farm Bureau about their concerns, and I haven't come across a single person that thought things were going well and effective. So, but I want to dive in. I kind of want to go through some stuff off the Farm Bureau's website, because I think it's a really great tool. And if you want to read any of this, it's at pfb.com. This is farmers' rights and obligations. Bullet point number 1. As a farm family living in Pennsylvania, may we hunt on your farm without a license? And the answer is yes. If farming is a primary means of gaining a livelihood, you and your immediate family as owners, lessees, or tenants, as well as a regular hired help, may hunt without a license during regular hunting seasons on your property or farm, including detached lands. So what that's really important in saying is that if it's your primary source of income, so I said earlier about the 9% of folks, this is, if you do farming part-time, if you do it as a side thing, this has nothing to do with you. And this is under code section 2706 A. So just food for thought. Number 2, are there additional areas where we may hunt without a license? Yes, you may hunt without a license on any privately owned adjacent lands as long as you secure written consent from the landowner or leaseholder. So basically, if you have a primary farm and you farm as your primary source of income, you're allowed to hunt on that piece of ground along with the surrounding properties. The surrounding properties, you just have to have written permission. And that is Code Section 2706A. And this is under Title 34. Are there any other special license provisions available for farmers? The answer is yes. If you own 50 or more contiguous acres within a county, you can apply for a regular fee, a doe license, in advance of the general public. Your land must be open to public hunting, and you may only hunt in the county where the license is issued. Here's a program. I think it's utter nonsense that you have to open your land to the general public, considering that there are no real checks and balances outside of the fact that, as far as how somebody comes onto your land or conducts their business or hunts properly or ethically, morally, so on and so forth. So can't say I agree with this program. This falls underneath of Code Section 2706C. But yeah, that's a big negative for me. Number 4, as a farmer, may I protect myself against crop or livestock damage? The answer is yes. Members of your household, non-household family members helping with the farm, and regularly hired farm help may kill game or wildlife witnessed to be causing or about to cause damage to farm crops, fruit trees, vegetables, livestock, poultry, or beehives raised on any and all farms under your control, including detached lands. So that means if you have a farm and a piece of property maybe is a mile down the road and is not contiguous, yes, the answer is yes, you can go ahead and do this. A person killing game for crop or livestock protection must report the kill to a game warden within 24 hours. The entire carcass of the bird or animals killed, less entrails, must be kept intact in safe place pending final disposition, unless the person is entitled to keep the animal. I will raise a huge red flag here. There are federal laws that also apply, especially when it comes to migratory birds. So things like, for example, if you have chickens and hawks come down and are killing your chickens, I can assure you that this particular example, those are protected federal birds, and if you just call the game commission and say, "Oh yeah, I shot some hawks that were killing my chickens," that's going to probably go over pretty negatively. So just make sure that if this is something you're dealing with, especially when you're talking about migratory birds, that you contact the game commission in advance. You're probably going to need to get some separate permits, but this falls underneath the code sections 2121 through 2123. Bullet point number 5, may animals killed for protection of crops or livestock be kept for consumption? A person entitled to kill animals for crop and livestock protection may keep one deer, bear, or elk if both of the following exist. 1, the land of which you kill the occurred was open to public hunting. Doesn't it seem like this is a trend? You must open your property all to the public. Free, free, free. It was not within an area which was deterred fence was built. Number 2, the entire edible portion of the previously killed and retained deer, bear, or elk has been consumed. If an animal is kept for food It may only be eaten in the household of the person making the kill. The head and hide of the animal kept for food consumption must be properly salted, placed in safe keeping, and turned over to the game warden. This whole thing here is just like over the top. Like, what does it matter? Why does the game commission have to confiscate an animal that was killed on your property? I don't really understand. It's really not a rational reason. And then it's going to go to a charitable source, which there's not even a funding to adequately manage or deal with that piece of the puzzle, which is a whole other discussion. So there's huge funding issues when it comes to a lot of these deer going to some of these programs to be cut up and then go into like the needy. Number 6, how many farmers get help shooting game for crop damage? Act 26 of 2007 allows farmers to get additional help in controlling the number of wildlife causing damages to farm crops. Farmers may obtain permits from the Game Commission, authorizing up to 2 sub-permittees other than family members and employees to assist the farmer in shooting game for crop damage. Sub-permittees must be PA residents and hold a current PA hunting license. Game may be taken 24 hours a day under this provision. Under the program, game taken may not be kept for personal consumption. Why? I do not know. I do not understand. It doesn't make any sense. Can somebody please help make it make sense? It says the meat must go to donations to qualifying food banks, must be coordinated and approved by the Game Commission. Again, there is a lack of funding and lack of revenue streams for these different programs. So it raises a lot of questions. If the Game Commission wants these deer to go to these particular programs, then the Game Commission should ante up and pay the bill. That doesn't necessarily happen. So I raise that as a concern and a question. But I do not believe that if you shoot deer on your farm or private property for that matter and you want to consume them, I don't see what the big deal is. I don't see why it's such a concern. I don't see why there's such a concern about public access. Neither of these things in my mind are rational at all. So yeah, I'm going to move on to my next point. Number 7. What permit hunting is available to landowners to control deer damage? DMAP, which stands for Deer Management Assistance Program, is a permit program that allows landowners to use hunters during the regular deer hunting season. Now, I mentioned this earlier, and I'm going to actually share some dates with you and some information I think is very pertinent. We're going to move down here. It says, how do I enroll in the DMAP program? Farmland will normally qualify for DMAP enrollment if the land is privately owned or leased. The applicant must be able to demonstrate crop or tree damage from deer. Property may be enrolled regardless of whether or not it is posted. So DMAP basically allows you to hunt during normal season on privately owned or privately leased property that is not necessarily open to the general public. The application must be made each year between the last day of deer hunting season, which is, what is it now? I want to say middle to end of January, and May 1st. So you cannot apply after May 1st. So you basically have a window of 4 months to do the application. Needless to say, coupons redeemed for DMAP permits are not part of the DOE license allocation. So the DOE allocations are what the DOE manage are the WMUs. So when they talk about DOE allocations, it has no reflection when it comes to DMAP. A person that owns or leases more property may obtain DMAP permits for separate properties. If the properties are 1 mile or less apart from DMAP permits for each property may be obtained if the properties are managed under the Game Commission approved management plans. Excuse me. I haven't really dove into that piece of the puzzle. That's Regulation 147.673A and B. An commission approved management plan. I'm kind of confused about that. I'm not really sure if people can obviously show justified damages, and they're trying to See, this is where I would fall in more of this category. Personally, I would rather harvest deer as best I could and as best I can during the normal hunting season. And I'll come back to that. How does the DMAP permit program work? Bullet point 9. DMAP coupons are issued to an enrolled property owner, lessee, on the basis of 1 per 5 acres of cultivated land. So, for example, you have a 100-acre farm. You cultivate 40 acres. Realistically, you would take 40 divided by 5. You'd be allowed to shoot basically 8 deer. How they came up with that number, I do not know. I do not know because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because really, although you could be 100 acres, what is around you has a huge impact on your particular property. So that one's a big red flag and a big question for me, is how did they come up with that? How is it an arbitrary, like, firm, ironclad 1 per 5 acres of cultivation? To me, like, you should get allocations based upon the need and necessity, not just some ironclad, flat, cookie cutter number. So I say that based upon the facts of what properties you have around you are going to have a huge impact on you. It says landowners may issue up to 2 DMAP coupons to each PA licensed hunter for each DMAP property. The owner of the DMAP land must supply each permittee hunter with an approved map and property of the property. The map must show the property boundaries, enable the hunters to stay within the property when using the map. I do not really understand that. Why I do not understand that for this particular program is you do not have to do that. For example, red tags or the crop damage. When a property has to be open to the general public, you don't have to provide a map. They're coming on somebody's property and shooting deer in the middle of the summer. There's no maps required based upon that. So I don't really understand, like, if somebody is required to have a valid hunting license, why are you then required or obligated to provide them with a map? I guess I'm a little confused as to the rationale there, considering, like, does the Game Commission provide maps to go on the game lands? Like, hey, anybody that goes on a game land, you should be provided a map of the game lands. No, they do not do that. So I'm kind of, like, perplexed as to, you know, how or why they have this broken down. I mean, my big red flags are the window to apply. I firmly believe it should be an open and revolving door. You know, and even if they're basing it on the seasons, I mean, typically the seasons are, you know, open up in middle of year, basically follow the state budget, summer to summer, with the hunting seasons. I just firmly believe that you should kind of have a revolving door that opens up for people to address their needs throughout, you know, the entire year, not just, oh, shoot, I forgot to apply and it's May 5th, but I didn't apply by May 1st, so I'm booted out. I just can't say that I agree with that. What is the red tag program? Deer control permits allow farmers or landowners to receive deer depredation permits, referred to as red tag. These permits are distributed directly to the licensed hunters by the landowner. Landowners can obtain 1 sub permit per 5 acres of cultivated land unless a wildlife conservation officer deems additional allocations necessary. I mean, realistically, the conservation officer and the Game Commission being able to allocate tags throughout the entire year seems like the answer that, hey, it should be an as-need basis. Hey, I'm showing you that I have a problem. I don't care if my problem's in April. I don't care if my problem's in June, July, August, September, October, November, December, that we should be able to get what we need to address the problem. Some things that are important. It says each sub-permit allows licensed hunters to take 1 antlered deer, antlerless deer. Permits are valid February 1st to September 15th. So basically, February 1st to September 15th would be the red tag program. again, they you're talking a defined window here. So there's different programs for different times of the year, public, non-public access, so on and so forth. Here's an interesting one. Bullet point 13. Who may use bait to take game? Red tag applicants from southeastern special regulation areas, counties listed only, may be eligible to obtain approval to engage in limited baiting. I think this is absolutely fascinating. I think it's something we should dive into at a later time when you talk about baiting and baiting opportunities and baiting used for crop damage purposes. But I just realized I'm going to be winding down here on time. So with that being said, I'd like to I'll circle back on a lot of these topics when it comes to crop damage because I have a lot more to cover and just not enough time in today's show. But with that being said, special thanks to all of our sponsors, the MOA, Wild Acres Farm, Washington County Tourism Promotion Agency. Please visit Washington County, Pennsylvania. U.S. Oil and Gas Alliance, ZLC Services, John Koski Contracting, Laurel Hill Trout Farm, and Octane Environmental. I'm Jason White. This has been The Great Outdoors, and I will see you all next week. God bless and have a good one.